I am Jason Ross here at the BRICS Summit in Kazan, Russia. Very happy to be speaking with Sarah Njix of 4U Media in Africa.
Pleased to meet you.
Very good to see you. Let me ask right off the bat, what brought you to the BRICS Summit? What do you think that this grouping and discussion group can bring to the world?
First and foremost, I came here in my capacity as a journalist to cover this year's BRICS Summit, the 16th of its kind. This is the second time I'm covering the summit. I would say from an African perspective, it's imperative for Africans to get partners that see them as fair partners or that see them as fair collaborators. You reiterate that some time ago, we had the Russian foreign minister that highlighted that Africa is an equal partner in terms of global cooperation, and that was reiterated at the summit we saw recently in China. You notice that if African nations are moving towards the BRICS, it's because they have a lot to offer in terms of cooperation. We saw at the United Nations General Assembly that took place in September, we saw Africans highlighting that they don't have a fair share at the table. And this is why they keep coming towards BRICS, because BRICS gives them a platform through which they can cooperate in terms of economic development, in terms of security, in terms of, well, what Africa has. Because you notice that Africa is a rich continent. But in as much as Africa is a rich continent, Africa strives to get itself involved with partners that see them as equal, say, I like to say collaborators, not those that would just come to them because of what they have. You look at the African continent, for instance, you notice that about 14 countries within the African continent are still using the franc CFA, especially in West Africa. And the BRICS is offering a new currency. The BRICS has a new development bank, which is contrary to what the IMF is offering. You equally notice that with the New World Order and the fact that most countries are moving towards multipolarity, it's imperative for Africa to define its stance and where it stands as far as geopolitics is concerned. And I think that's why we have more and more countries knocking at the door of the BRICS, including those that are part of the West. So the BRICS group of emerging economies has more to offer, and at this point in time, given we have about 3 African countries already present within the bloc, I look forward to seeing more African nations being integrated into the bloc this year. And we keep our fingers crossed, and the couple of days or the next couple of days will tell which African country is going to join next. So.
Yes. Let me ask another question about Africa's role in the international stage. The conflict in Ukraine, well, the NATO conflict against Russia that's taking place in Ukraine, this was the subject of a peace initiative of several African presidents in the African Union.
Exactly.
South Africa, very notably, stood up and went to the International Court of Justice with a case against Israel. How do you see the importance of the role of Africa expressing its voice internationally?
Well, Africa has not just voiced its opinion as far as the war in Ukraine is concerned. You equally notice that Africa has had a solid position, even in the crisis in the Middle East. We have seen several heads of state and government officials that have called for a cessation of hostilities. Recently, you mentioned that South Africa went to the ICC. But ahead of that, you usually notice that Africa always has this role of mediation in terms of global conflict. Africa is it's making its voice heard, that equally has something to say. Because you notice that the rest of the world are always very loud when it comes to resolving issues on the African continent in terms of security. You notice what's happening in West Africa. We saw recently when Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger wrote a letter to the United Nations Security Council to condemn what they said was Ukraine actually supplying weapons to terrorist groups in Mali following the attack that took place in Tizatouane. But away from that, Africa is actively participating in global issues. And that is one of the reasons why you see Africa actually voicing out its own point or its own position as far as these global issues concerned. So it's not the first time, and it's not going to be the last.
Excellent. May I ask you another?
Yeah, sure.
So it concerns the idea of multipolarity. So during the Cold War, much of the world was divided into two blocks.
Yeah.
And there was also a committed non-aligned movement that said we are not participating in this divide. Now, today, it's less that there are two blocks and more that there is one block that sees itself this way and intends to hold its hegemony. And today, Russia and China are not part of a second world, but are part of this BRICS process that's incorporating more and more of the world. If conflict with NATO can be avoided, how do you see international relations in a world in which countries are more equally represented?
Well, I'll start with the BRICS member countries are not at war with NATO. Well, if I have to align myself with the vision of Jim O'Neill, who first came up with the idea of the BRICS, he had stated that in years to come, the BRICS would actually challenge the G7 group of developed economies and not NATO. You reiterate, let's recall that just recently we saw the Sergei Lavrov that spoke, and he pinpointed the fact that the bloc is not a military union. No, it's not a military bloc. And they are in no way opposing NATO. We should look at it like they are ready to cooperate with countries. You notice even Turkey is seeking to be part of the bloc.
Yes.
But it is a NATO ally.
Yes.
So there is this BRICS offers a mutual ground for cooperation for who is willing to. You saw France last year that offered to participate at the BRICS summit in South Africa. It's no news. The only thing is, these countries is just that you're seeing that the BRICS bloc is actually growing. We have more and more countries that are knocking on the door because of the opportunities it offers. So what we should be looking at is there is no war as of now, and we should look at it as a cooperation. There should be this platform where these two can be able to cooperate, because we're not looking at a Cold War here. I think it's more of a proxy war, but then with the stakes involved, Russia and China, we know the relationship dates back to about 75 years ago, and with everything that's ongoing, there's no war at the moment. It's just countries that have seen a bloc that's growing, that has a lot of opportunities to offer, and they're like, okay, let's align ourselves with this bloc because it intends to benefit us. So basically, that's it.
Wonderful. Last question. If you were to imagine the world as you think it could be in, say, 25 or 50 years, what do you see?
From my perspective, I would look at the vision 2050 of the BRICS. Since its creation to now, the world, I would say that things have evolved in as much as we have numerous conflicts ongoing in different parts of the world. We could say that you see countries aligning themselves with partners which are more strategic to them and beneficial. We'll look at the African continent, for instance, given I'm looking at it from an Afrocentric perspective. African countries, as compared to back in the days, we are in some sort of neo-colonial era. Africans, we have our former colonial masters like France, Britain, that's trying to reconnect themselves to the African continent. But Africa has seen itself partners through which it can benefit from, like Russia, like China, like India. So if Africa, or better still, the world can look at these partners or see there is this equal table where these partners can get to talk and bring their interests at heart or what's important to them, then I think we're headed in the right direction. Say 25 years from now, the world should be a much more better place than what it is now. And in terms of economic growth and development, then we should see countries flourishing. And we should see less of conflicts than what we see now.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Would you like to tell your viewers where they can follow your work online?
Okay, I'm a journalist with For You Media Africa in Cameroon, with Pan-African Media Group. So you can join us on YouTube on For You Media Africa English, Facebook For You Media Africa English, or you can join us on For You Media Africa, Facebook, YouTube, and all social media platforms. So,
Wonderful. Sarah and Njix, thank you.
thank you too.